What's up, my beautiful people? Hope you're having a tremendous day. Exile451 here with yet another daily dose of Reddit Happy. It's Thursday, which means more funny Ask Reddit, so sit back, relax, and enjoy the video. Okay, so the Ask Reddit question was, what event in your life wasn't funny at the time, but is hilarious now? And there are some good ones here. So me and my friends got robbed once, and my friend handed over his wallet, then remembered that his ID was in there and what a pain it is to get a new one. So he started arguing with the robber to let him take the ID out, and they get into a full back and forth argument over it. Robber eventually opens his wallet and is trying to slide the ID out of the plastic sleeve, but is having trouble. My friend snatched the wallet from him and slides his ID out and hands back the wallet. We were all terrified at the time, but looking back, we laugh about how stupid that was. The whole scene could have come straight out of a sitcom. And these next few are all just kind of follow-ups to that. This reminds me of something that happened to me when I was in high school. Our family had moved from small city Canada to Honolulu. Dad on sabbatical for the year at U of H. And I didn't get any tutoring in the culture at the school's campus. I did have some friends tell me to stay away from certain areas, which I did, but one day while I was walking alone, one of the locals, it was 1979, that's what non-locals called them, came up to me and wanted a quarter for lunch. The school provided lunch for a quarter every day. It wasn't bad either. I started literally shaking and said, I only have $1. He's like, give it. So I did, and we went our separate ways. I was pretty shaken, but considered myself lucky. The very next day, the same guy approaches me and I start inwardly panicking. He comes up to me and holds out his hand and says, here's your change. He freaking gave me 75 cents back. He really only wanted a quarter. And well, you never know. Reminds me of this story. My friend got mugged at university when he was walking back from the library at night holding a stack of books. He was held at knife point, so he wanted to give the robber his wallet ASAP. Without thinking, my friend asked the robber to hold his books so he could get his wallet out. Weirdly, the robber obliged and kindly handed back the books after he got the wallet. My friend called the police when he was safely back at his dorm and told the story. They asked him, do you still have the books? The police then fingerprinted the books and actually caught the guy. My friend didn't want to testify because the robber was so polite. Frick, he should have just run off with the books. Could have made a fortune selling them discount over the campus bookstore. Back in college, one of my friends was walking through a parking lot at night in Baltimore when some guy came up to him with a knife and demanded he hand over everything in his pockets. My friend had actually just lost his phone and wallet, but had a few coins on him. He flips his pockets inside out and goes, well, I've got a few coins. Robber looks at the coins, looks back up at my friend and yells, man, I don't want some frickin' pennies, and then just runs off. Friend makes it back to our car and was just like, wow, I'm so poor I'm not even worth robbing. Life of a college student. One time when I was in 7th grade math class, the teacher asked a question that I actually knew the answer to. So when he asked the class which of us knew the answer, I enthusiastically shot my hand up, but he didn't call on me. However, the girl he did call on got it wrong, so when he asked the rest of the class who could give the correct answer, I not only threw my hand up this time with even more fervor than my first attempt, but I accompanied it with a deal sealing I know as well. This time, he did call on me, and just as I went to triumphantly announce the proof of my mathematical prowess, I sneezed, the force of which caused me to blast the loudest fart I had ever produced in my theretofore young life. As I turned 12 shades of crimson in the mortified embarrassment that only a 13-year-old kid who had just farted in front of a room full of other merciless 13-year-old children, and said room full of vengeful little brats already roaring in laughter at me, my shame was only further deepened when the teacher, stifling himself from bursting out fits of laughter as well, confirmed to me and the rest of the class, that's not the right answer either. I think everyone has a middle school story about that though. You are not alone. I had an unbelievably busy couple of weeks with work. Thinking of so many things, I ended up accidentally closing my car keys in my trunk. Called and waited for CAA, roadside assistance. They got there, and then I realized my car wasn't even locked. A follow-up to that one. My friend's younger brother once locked his keys in his car. He called his dad to bring the spare and unlock it. While his dad was driving over, he realized the window was down so he could obviously get in and grab his keys. Rather than call his dad and say he no longer needed the spare, he rolled up the windows and then locked his keys in the car for real. The thing is, I can totally understand this because if I did the same thing with my dad, he would have an aneurysm. I would never hear the end of it. Honestly, this makes so much sense. Broke up with my girlfriend of the time, and after a long and tearful goodbye, I turned from her room and fell down a flight of stairs, actually hurting myself quite badly. I insisted I was okay and hobbled out the door and her life forever. I'm sure there's a pun in there somewhere, but I just can't think of it. So if someone does think of a great one for that, go ahead and post it in the comments, and if it's good enough, I might toss a $10 Amazon gift card your way. I very briefly worked as a princess at children's birthday parties. Snow White, Cinderella, standard stuff. One day, dispatch called me and told me I'd be playing Hello Kitty at a party. I didn't even know that was an option. But, okay, fine. I go to pick up the costume, and it's this giant fuzzy suit with a steel hula hoop in the middle keeping it round and a giant head with some mesh in the mouth that I can barely see out of. This was going to be a long hour. So I get to the party, and it's outside in this family's backyard. I do all my shtick, face painting, balloon animals, magic tricks, but there's still about 15 minutes left to kill, so I ask the kids if they want to play a game. The kids have some random made-up game where you throw a ball and tag the tree and run back to a certain point or whatever. So I say, fine, let's play. Now, what I couldn't tell from the poor vision out of the mesh costume head was that the yard we were in was situated at the top of a very steep hill. I went to catch a ball and suddenly everything was spinning. I was rolling. The hula hoop kept its shape, so my feet never touched the ground. I rolled like a giant fuzzy ball. Down the hill. The giant head flew off and I landed at the bottom in a giant bush. I could see tiny heads peering over the side of the hill. Finally, I heard a mom yell, "Are you okay?" "Yeah." "Do you need some help?" "Yeah." It took 3 dads to roll me back up the hill because my center of gravity in this giant ball wouldn't allow me to climb back up this massive vertical hill. The head was dented, there were twigs sticking out of it, half the kids were laughing, the other half were sobbing. I walked straight through the kitchen and out the front door without bothering to say I was leaving and see if I'd get a tip. I wanted to leave so badly, I attempted to get into my Saturn with the suit still on. But that wasn't going to happen. I had to change awkwardly behind my car and left as quickly as possible. Horrifying at the time. Thankfully, this was pre-smartphones, so it wasn't all over YouTube the next day. Although now, I think I'd like to see it. It's pretty hilarious in retrospect. Well, rolling down a hill like that, I'd imagine, is definitely one way to say goodbye, kitty. Glad to hear you're okay, though. Bought a vacant house that was filled with junk. Was cleaning out the basement and found a poor dead cat the previous owners must have left to die there alone. I didn't want to touch it, so I called animal control. They came out right away. I showed the guy the cat under some debris. The guy picks it up with tongs, and we all find out it's a stuffed animal. He started dying laughing. But at least my shame was only with one guy I would never see again. Right? To my complete disbelief, the dad of one of my best friends was literally outside the front of the home checking water meters since he also worked for the city and the animal control guy told him all about it. Now both of them dying laughing, and now all my friends would definitely find out. We still have the stuffed cat years later and laugh. I stopped by the Dick's Sporting Goods shop where my son worked during his college years. Waiting around for him got boring, so I decided to try out one of the treadmills on display. I had never been on a treadmill in my life, but really, how hard could it be? I hopped up on the one with the key in the ignition, whatever, and turned it on. Whoosh! I flew off the end of that thing like I was traveling backwards to hell and knocked over a poor woman browsing the sweatpants. We disentangled ourselves and decided we were both unhurt, while my son, who witnessed the whole stunt, watched, shaking his head from the back of the store. You know what made it somehow even more embarrassing? That I had my big handbag over my shoulder the entire time. Just, who treadmills with a purse? I can relate to this entirely. I got shot off the end of a treadmill doing HIIT cardio once in college, and it was super embarrassing. A coworker and I were on a conference call. Basically, the entire multinational IT team discussing some project coming up with some corporate bigwigs. So we're told what we need to do, and one of the guys from Holland, I'll call him Bjorn, goes off on one, complaining about the workload. He goes on for a solid 20 minutes complaining and just talking in circles. But the thing was, this project wasn't optional. We had to do it no matter what. Everyone was in the same boat, and he actually had one of the lightest workloads, having the fewest users to support. After his tirade is over, the focus switches to the UK team, and we're told what we need to do. We basically just say, "Okay, understood." I mute the phone and turn to my coworker and say, "You see how much freaking easier it is just to agree to something instead of wasting everyone's time complaining? It's not like we've got a freaking choice, just get on with it." Is it just me, or is it every conference call like 10 minutes of useful info, followed by 45 minutes of Bjorn complaining? Then my coworker chimes in, "Yeah, all he does is freaking whine. I'm Bjorn, I've got to do some freaking work for once. It's less than everyone else, but I'm going to whine about it for freaking hours. Every time." Guy's an idiot. I've seen how many tickets he does a week. What he calls a busy week, I call an average Monday morning. But it's the way he'll keep whining about something that we can't change. Doesn't matter that it affects everyone, doesn't matter that we've no choice but to suck it up and get on with it, he just talks in circles. Yeah, and why moan about it? It's not like the company's going to say, "Okay, we'll cancel a multi-million-pound project just because freaking Bjorn wants to spin in his chair all day." Then we notice the call has gone completely silent. I look at the phone and see the mute button isn't lit up. I crap my pants and for some reason mute the phone like it will erase the last minute of conversation. There's dead air for what felt like an eternity. Then we hear, "UK, did you say something?" Me and my coworker just stare at each other in horror. The company's CEO is on the call. So is the main head of IT. At that moment, the UK IT head, whose office is just down the hall, boots the door open, barges into the room, making cutthroat motions and mouthing, "You're not on mute! You're not on mute!" We just stare back in horror and say, "We know." Then the call goes, "Okay, let's carry on." At that point, we see that the UK IT head is actually trying not to laugh, and we figure we can't be in that deep of crap. Then the call goes on like nothing happened. Bjorn, uncharacteristically, stayed silent. We didn't end up getting in any crap for it. No one complained, and our boss wasn't pissed at us because we were basically saying, "This is our job, we have to do it, so there's no point complaining." And Bjorn never complained, probably because he knew we were right. Now we laugh about it, but when we realized the phone wasn't muted and the call went silent, we nearly soiled ourselves. That was r/AskReddit, and if you want more funny or uplifting AskReddit content, then feel free to click the playlist link in the description below. Now you guys go out there, have a great day, I will see you all tomorrow. Until then, I'm Exile451, stay beautiful people.